at the low tech here, except you get some trees in the background this time. And you get the top of the hoodie. The reason I'm wearing the hoodie is because I'm going to be talking playoff football here. I'm going to be talking historical playoff football. We're going to be rating Peyton Manning's performance throughout his playoff career. Now, the reason I want the trees in the back is there were games he had good weather in the dome throughout his career in Indy. But he has plenty of games where he had to play outdoors in the cold. So that's the hoodie. He also had to play against Bill Belichick a few times. That the hoodie certainly reminds you of that. Hopefully, again, you're just getting part of my face for the low-tech feel. And but the trees should help. I don't know. I hope things are getting mixed up, going that I'm pacing back and forth. So we're going over every one of Peyton Manning's games. Don't worry, won't be in one shot. We'll do this in a few parts. And then people may have noticed that I did a 4-part rating of Peyton Manning's performance against Pittsburgh that ended up accumulating to 45 minutes. Who's got 45 minutes to go over every one of Peyton Manning's throws against how he did against Pittsburgh this year in the playoffs? Man, I got to shorten these things, but here we go. We're going to try to shorten this to get right to the point. There's no highlights on this one. Just a general sense to get the feel that Peyton Manning's performance drops considerably come playoff time. You're going to have to acknowledge that as we go through the games. I've had the argument with many people on the radios, sports fans, sports analysts, and experts in the field, and they say, some of them say there's no such thing as clutch. Come on, you're overrating it. He's playing against tougher defenses. His teams weren't good. His Indianapolis defenses weren't good. Yeah, his Indianapolis defenses weren't good. But what about, let's rate his personal performance. How did he do in each of the games? So let's go through them and let's see. There we go. I've done this many times, so I didn't look it up. So and I'm not going to be exact, but my memory's pretty good on Peyton Manning's games. But who can remember every detail? He opens his career against Tennessee in the playoffs. His first game at home. You know, he's a nice favorite. Should win. I expected him to win. I didn't know anything about his, I don't know anything. I don't watch college football and follow college football. It seems like he came in with a reputation. They didn't do too well in the bowl games. Again, I cannot confirm that. There is some talk that he had like that. So he's going to show now. Here comes playoff. He started his career 1-15 with Indy, and that was not his fault. He was the only guy in the team, kind of similar to Troy Aikman, 1-15, who had nobody else on the team. But now they built a team around him. Not a great defense, but they built a very strong offense around Peyton Manning. He's become a star. And what does he do in his first game in the playoffs? He lays an egg. He gives us a C- performance. Again, I don't have the numbers, but he got smacked around by Tennessee defense, which was a hard-hitting defense. Not as good as Tennessee's defense that they had when they went to the Super Bowl. Now I have to recall, did that Tennessee team go to the Super Bowl? I cannot recall, but I certainly know that was not a dominant Tennessee defense, but it was a nice, hard-hitting defense. 23-17, he only put up 17 points. Check it out, you'll see it was a C performance. The next year, I believe, the next one is his case, is against Miami, the overtime game. It's in Miami, the weather is great, kind of like the weather you see here in January, and he puts up again 17 points or 16 points. What did he lose? Was that 23-17 as Miami scores in overtime? Again, that Miami defense is not exactly that wasn't the killer bee defense of Miami of old. That was not a great defense. If you only put up 17 points, you got to give him at best a C there. You want to give him a B-, fine. We go on 41-0. You can't argue that. 41-0. He loses to the Jets. That Jet defense was not the sack exchange defense of Joe Klecko and Mark Gastineau. I don't care if you want to say, well, they gave up 41 points. What do you want from him? Just put up more than 0. All right, so we can clearly agree. Can we agree on that that's an F? And now he's already 0-3 in his first 3 games in the playoffs. Now, I must admit that any human being who's a very good player but not performing when it comes playoff time, at this point, if you don't want to use the word choke till now and say, well, just happened to have bad performances, the weight of the NFL looking at him and saying, wait, look how he started his playoff career, 0-3. Certainly now there's going to be a pressure that any human being would feel, and the eyes are on him to see how he perform playoff time. So that certainly would affect any human being. But if you take a look at his body language when he's behind in a playoff game, he's pouting and he's got these weird moods. He comes off the field stomping his feet, and he doesn't do anything to help his team get back in the game as far as rah-rah-rah. Now again, that may be a little bit overrated on the rah-rah-rah, but at least do something when they're losing. You don't get that confidence if you're on his team that he's not going to bring you back. He's not lifting the team up, shall I say. Again, you may call that point a little bit overrated, I agree. But certainly does not have good body language when his team is losing in the playoffs. Even Mike Francesa agreed to that in the 43-8 loss in the Super Bowl, that Peyton Manning on the sideline was certainly not, he's standing off to the side in a daze and not at all giving any hope, any lift to his team as far as from a rah-rah-rah standpoint. All right, made that point. A little bit overrated on that, but you cannot deny that his performances dropped considerably. Playoff time, he's 0-3 at this point, and now he gets his first playoff victory against a very bad Denver defense. He wins 41-10, 42-10, I think it was 41, and I'm not taking anything away by saying that Denver's defense was bad, but he was expected to score a lot of points in that game in the Dome against a bad defense that made the playoffs. There are a number of bad defenses that make the playoffs due to their offense. And he did what he had to. Let's give him an A+. He scored 41 points. A+. He wins his first playoff game. He's now 1-3. And now he's coming in to face Bill Belichick. And he's gonna and Tom Brady, and he's gonna get to know a guy named Ty Law. And it was snowy that day. But come on, do better than 24-14. They lost four interceptions. How many interceptions did he throw? I lost count. Who can remember? Who can remember this stuff? But again, he was pouting. He came off. He was coming to the sideline like it hurt. I'm sure that the way he was acting was hurting the team. That game was close till the end. It was 24-14, but Brady himself throws a bad interception that could have clinched the game could have put it up more than one score at a time when that would have essentially ended the game. But again, they were within one score most of the time. Peyton Manning just never got it done that day. You got to give him an F. You got to give him an F that time. But that game is being one of my favorites. Does not match next year. And let's go through his two. He wins two and is going to get a rematch against New England. What two does he win? He gets A+ in both. He beats Denver 49-10, 49 something. If you put up 49 points against a weak Denver defense, but come on, 49 points, A+. And then he beats Kansas City in a game in Kansas City, which is always tough to play, where again, it was against I call it the Kansas City Swiss cheese defense, the Swiss cheese defense against, I believe it was Dick Vermeil's Chiefs. And if you remember, the analysis before that game was whoever punts first is going to lose. There wasn't expected to be any punts. That's how bad both defenses were, and that's how good both offenses were. And indeed, Peyton Manning did not have to punt that game. And he won 35-31, I recall. So I don't know what the score was. Trent Green led the Chief offense, did have to punt once or twice. That was it. Indianapolis outscored KC. Give him an A+. And now my favorite game, one of my favorites of all time, 20-3. He goes out now. He's expected to win. And if you remember that, he was expected to at least play better. They were talking now, he had thrown 49 touchdowns that year. That's the year that they were now 14-2, I believe. Dominant Indy. But try to remember this. Who can remember? But try to remember. It was an Indy team coming to say, now he's going to get Belichick. He's going to get Brady, and they're going to beat New England. And he puts up a stinker. I happen to know the numbers because I've argued this with many. I've argued that his performances drop, and that there's such a thing as clutch, and that there's something about Peyton Manning come playoff time. Others argue against me on that, but so I looked up the numbers once on that game because someone said, well, he threw for a nice amount of yards in that game. Yeah, so let me explain. In that game, he had three and outs. 2 times he got 1 first down. 1 time he got a couple of first downs. So that's 6 tries. One of the drives was not his fault. It ended in a fumble and a turnover that was not his fault. Basically, he never got to the red zone. The one time that he had a 70-yard drive was when it was 20-3. He put up 70 of his yards, so that padded his stats. If you look at the stats, it doesn't look so terrible, but it's an F minus minus minus. That one time that he drives 70 yards, it's the game's out of hand, and even that he so put the cherry on the top of one of the worst performances ever by a guy in such a situation by throwing an interception on the very last play of the day, or his very last offensive possession in garbage time. 20-3, he loses. F minus, and the weather, by the way, it was not very windy that day. It was a sprinkle of snow coming down. It was cold, very cold, but he solidified his reputation in my mind as a guy whose performances dropped considerably. And again, I'm reading his individual performance. I know his teams weren't that good. I know his teams didn't have great defense, but what about him as an individual? How did he do? And at that point, he's now 3-5. We will continue part 2, where we now will get to, we will continue his playoff career. At this point, again, 3-5, and we've established that we have in the beginning of his career, Peyton Manning. I don't want to use the word choker. That's a strong term. Choker means he's saying he gets nervous, and I just say Peyton Manning not producing playoff time.